My daughter showed up at my door on a Friday morning and said, "Start packing, Mom. I've already sold your house. You're moving to a nursing home by Monday." I stood there, coffee cup in my hand, looking at the daughter I raised. And I said the only thing I could. "Come in, dear. You might want to see this. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Because what happened next, you're not going to believe." Now let me take you back to that morning. I was in the kitchen making coffee. The light came through the window the way it always did on Fridays. Soft, warm, the kind of light that makes you think everything's going to be okay. Then I heard her car. Not the gentle sound of someone coming to visit. The aggressive sound of someone coming to take something. The engine cut. The door slammed. Hard. She walked in without knocking. Sarah, my daughter, 35 years old, navy blue suit, hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. She carried a stack of legal papers thick enough to be a book. Her face had no smile, just determination, the cold kind. She stopped in the middle of my kitchen. She didn't sit down. "Mom, we need to talk." "Actually, no, we don't need to talk. I'm telling you, I've already sold your house. The deal closes in 2 weeks. You need to start packing. I've found a nice nursing home. Clean, safe, affordable." I stood there holding my coffee, looking at her. In my head, I saw 30 years flash by. The living room where I taught her to walk, this kitchen where we made birthday cakes every year, the bedroom upstairs where my husband died in my arms. She kept talking. Her voice sounded like a business presentation. "You're too old to maintain this place. The property taxes are ridiculous. And frankly, I need the money for my business. This is what's best for everyone." I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I didn't cry. I just set my coffee cup down on the counter. Slow, gentle. I'd imagined this moment for 6 months, ever since I opened that letter from my late husband. But I never imagined it would feel like this. Like watching a stranger wear my daughter's face. My hand shook a little when I set the cup down. The sound of ceramic touching wood echoed in the silence. The morning light was still beautiful, peaceful. Right before the storm, I could smell my coffee mixed with the smell of fresh ink from her legal papers. She wouldn't look me in the eyes when she spoke. She looked down at her documents. I opened my mouth. My voice came out calm, too calm. "Come in, dear. You might want to see this." She frowned. "See what?" "Mom, I don't have time for." "Trust me, you'll want to make time." Her confident smile cracked just a little. Because she had no idea what I'd been preparing, and when she found out, everything changed. "I need to tell you how we got here. How a mother and daughter end up on opposite sides of a kitchen table, like enemies. I've lived alone for 5 years. Since my husband Tom passed. Heart attack, quick, too quick. One day we were planning our retirement. The next day I was planning his funeral. This house is a Victorian. 3 bedrooms, quiet neighborhood, the kind where people still wave when they drive past. We bought it 32 years ago for $70,000. Now it's worth $350,000, maybe more. Sarah is my only child. She works in real estate development. Married a man named Derek 3 years ago. He flips properties, buys low, sells high. That's how he talks about everything, including people. The distance started after the wedding. She used to call every Sunday, then every other Sunday, then just texts, short ones. "How are you? I'm busy. Talk soon." She stopped coming for holidays 2 years ago. Too busy with Derek's family. Too busy with work. Too busy with life. The last time we had dinner together, she looked at her phone the entire time. I asked her about her day. She said fine without looking up. I asked if she was happy. She said of course without looking up. I asked if she needed anything. She looked up then. Her eyes changed. She asked if I'd ever thought about downsizing. That's when I knew. She wasn't seeing her mother anymore. She was seeing an asset. But here's what she didn't know. There were things happening in this house that no one knew about. 6 months ago, I got a phone call. From Tom's lawyer. A man named Richard Patterson. He said there was something I needed to see. Something Tom left behind. I drove to his office on a Tuesday. The building smelled like old paper and furniture polish. Richard met me at the door. He looked uncomfortable, like he was carrying something heavy. He led me to a conference room. On the table sat a sealed envelope, cream-colored, my name written in Tom's handwriting. Richard said Tom had left instructions. This envelope was to be opened exactly 5 years after his death, not before. Tom had been very specific. I sat down. My hands shook when I picked up the envelope. The paper felt thick, expensive. I could see Tom sitting somewhere, writing this, knowing I'd read it alone. I opened it. Inside was a letter, handwritten, 3 pages, and a bank statement. The letter started simple. My dearest, if you're reading this, it means I've been gone 5 years. I hope they were good years. I hope you found peace. Then it changed. I knew our daughter would change. I saw the signs before I died. The way she looked at the house, the way she asked about our finances, the way she stopped asking about you. I sat there in that office, reading my dead husband's words. He'd known. He'd seen it coming. I've set up an account. Richard will explain the details. The money is yours. Protected. Use it wisely. And remember, love means teaching, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. The bank statement showed $875,000. In a trust, my name only. Richard explained. Tom had been moving money quietly for 2 years before he died. Small amounts, from investments, from savings, building this safety net. The trust was irrevocable. No one could touch it but me. Not even Sarah. Not even with power of attorney. I asked why Tom did this. Richard said Tom came to him a year before the heart attack, said he was worried, said Derek was bad news, said he needed to protect me from what might come. I drove home that day with the letter in my purse. I didn't tell Sarah. I wanted to wait, to see if Tom was right, to see if my daughter would come back on her own. 3 months later, Sarah started mentioning nursing homes. Just in passing, just casual suggestions. 6 months later, Derek showed up with real estate contracts. And now, here we were. My daughter in my kitchen, telling me she'd already sold my home. Tom had been right, and I hadn't told anyone what he'd left behind. Before I tell you what happened next in that kitchen, I need you to understand something. Sarah wasn't always like this. She wasn't born cold. She was made that way, slowly, or maybe I just didn't see it coming. When she was 7, we baked cookies together every Saturday, right here in this kitchen. She'd stand on a step stool next to me, flour on her nose, chocolate on her fingers. She'd ask me questions about everything. Why is the sky blue? Why do birds sing? Why do people get old? I'd answer the best I could, and she'd listen like every word mattered. At night, I'd read to her in her bedroom upstairs, the same room that's been empty for 15 years now. We'd curl up together under her yellow blanket. She'd make me read the same books over and over. Goodnight Moon, Where the Wild Things Are, Charlotte's Web. When she was 15, she painted me a picture. Watercolors. A house that looked like ours. A garden. 2 stick figures holding hands. She wrote at the bottom in careful letters, "I'll take care of you when you're old, Mom." I still have that picture. It's in my bedroom. I look at it some nights when I can't sleep. She graduated high school with honors, then college. Business degree. Tom and I worked 2 jobs each to pay for it. I cleaned houses in the morning, worked retail at night. Tom did construction during the day. Drove trucks on weekends. We didn't mind. She was our investment, our future, our pride. At her college graduation, she hugged me so tight I couldn't breathe. She whispered in my ear, "I'm going to make you proud, Mom. I'm going to pay you back for everything." I told her she already had, just by being who she was. Then she met Derek. The first time she brought him home, Tom pulled me aside. He said something feels off about that one. I said give him a chance. Tom said I'm trying. But watch him. Watch how he looks at things, like he's pricing them. I didn't listen. I was too happy Sarah had found someone. They got married 3 years ago. Spring wedding. Beautiful ceremony. Derek's family paid for everything. They had money, old money, the kind that makes you feel small when you're around it. After the wedding, things changed. Slowly at first, like water freezing. You don't notice until it's solid ice. Sarah stopped calling as much. When she did call, she sounded distracted. She'd ask about the house, about repairs I needed, About my expenses, never about me. The first Christmas after the wedding, she said they couldn't make it. Derek's family had a tradition, some ski resort in Colorado. She promised they'd come for New Year's. They didn't. The second Christmas, she didn't even call. She sent a text at 9 p.m. Sorry, got busy. Love you. I tried to visit them once. Drove 3 hours to their house in the suburbs. Big house, new construction, everything white and gray and cold. Sarah gave me a tour like I was a client. She kept checking her phone. Derek barely spoke to me. He was on his laptop the whole time, running numbers, making deals. When I left, Sarah hugged me at the door. It felt like hugging a mannequin. All form, no warmth. I cried the whole drive home. Tom died 6 months later. Sarah came to the funeral. She stayed 2 days. She cried, but something about it felt performative. Like she was crying because that's what you're supposed to do, not because she felt it. At the reception, I heard her on the phone in the hallway, talking to Derek. She said, "Yes, the house will be mine eventually. No, there's no mortgage. Yes, I know what it's worth." I pretended I didn't hear. A year after Tom died, Sarah asked if I'd ever thought about selling, moving somewhere smaller, easier to maintain. She said it like she was worried about me, but her eyes were doing math. I said I wasn't ready. This house had too many memories. She said, "Memories don't keep you warm at night, Mom. Money does." That's when I knew. The daughter I raised, the one who painted me pictures and promised to take care of me, she was gone. And I didn't know if I could get her back. But Tom had given me the tools to try. So there we were, back in my kitchen, that Friday morning, Sarah standing there with her papers, her confidence, her plans for my life. "Come in, dear. You might want to see this." She followed me into the living room, still holding those papers, still thinking she had control. "Before you say anything else, there's someone here you should meet." I opened the door to the study, the room Tom used to use for his paperwork, the room Sarah hadn't been in since she was a teenager. A man stepped out, 50s, gray suit, leather briefcase. Richard Patterson, Tom's lawyer. Sarah's face changed. The color drained. "What is this?" Richard nodded at her. "Hello, Sarah. It's been a while." She looked at me, then at him, then back at me. "Mom, what's going on?" I sat down on the couch, the same couch where Tom and I used to watch TV every night. I gestured for Sarah to sit. She didn't. "Richard, why don't you explain?" He opened his briefcase, pulled out a folder, set it on the coffee table. "Sarah, your mother asked me to be here today, to clarify a few things about this house." Sarah clutched her papers tighter. "I don't understand." Richard opened the folder. "The house was transferred into an irrevocable trust 6 months ago. Your mother is the sole beneficiary for the duration of her life. She cannot be removed. The house cannot be sold without her voluntary consent, which means the contracts you signed are void." Sarah's mouth opened. Nothing came out. She looked down at the papers Richard had laid out. Legal documents, trust certificates, property transfers, all dated 6 months earlier, all legal, all final. "This can't be legal. You're not capable of protecting myself?" I kept my voice level, calm. "I'm old, sweetheart, not foolish." She sank into the chair across from me. Her papers slipped from her hands, scattered on the floor. But that wasn't the only person in the room. Behind Richard, the kitchen door opened. Someone else stepped into the living room. Sarah looked up. When she saw who it was, every ounce of color drained from her face. It was someone she hadn't seen in 3 years. Someone she'd thrown away. Someone she thought she'd never have to face again. Let me take you back again. To 6 months ago, right after I opened Tom's letter, right after I learned about the money, the trust, the protection he'd built for me. I sat in my car outside Richard Patterson's office for 20 minutes, holding that letter, reading it over and over. Tom's handwriting, Tom's words. Love means teaching, even when it hurts. I didn't know what that meant yet, but I knew I needed help. I went back inside. I asked Richard if we could talk, really talk. Not just about paperwork, about my daughter, about what Tom had seen, about what I should do. Richard took me back to that conference room. He sat across from me. He said, Your husband came to me a year before he passed. He was worried, not just about the money, about Sarah, about the man she married. What did he say? Richard folded his hands. He said Derek was bad news. He'd done some research. Derek had a pattern. Marry well, spend big, then use family assets to cover his losses. Tom found out Derek's first engagement ended when the woman's father ran a background check. Found debts, bad investments, a history of using people. I felt sick. Why didn't Tom tell me? He didn't want to hurt you. He hoped Sarah would see it herself. But when he got diagnosed with the heart condition, he knew he might not have time to wait. So, he set this up. The trust, the protection. He asked me to watch over you, to be here when you needed me. I asked what I should do. Richard said that was up to me. But he suggested we transfer the house into the trust immediately, before Sarah and Derek could make a move. He also suggested something else. A private investigator, to find out what they were really planning. I hired the investigator, a woman named Patricia Brooks, former police detective. She spent 3 months watching Sarah and Derek, following their finances, their meetings, their plans. She came back with a report. Derek's business was failing. He owed creditors over $500,000. They were about to lose their house, their cars, everything. And their plan was to sell my house, use the money to cover Derek's debts, then move me into the cheapest nursing home they could find. Patricia showed me emails, text messages between Sarah and Derek. She'd written, "Once we sell her house, we're free." He'd written back, "Finally. Your mom's been sitting on a gold mine. Time to cash out." I sat there reading my daughter's words, seeing how she talked about me, like I was a stock she was ready to sell. That's when I made the decision. I signed the trust papers. I locked the house down. And I waited. I waited to see if Sarah would come to me with honesty, with need, with her real self. She didn't. She came with lies, with contracts, with demands. And that's why Richard was in my house that Friday morning. But let me be honest with you. Those 6 months weren't easy. There were nights I almost broke. Nights I almost picked up the phone. Nights I almost gave in. I'd lie awake at 2 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Sarah as a little girl, wondering where I went wrong, wondering if I was being cruel instead of kind. I'd get up, walk to the kitchen, make tea I wouldn't drink, sit at the table with my phone in my hand, her number on the screen, my finger hovering over the call button. I'd think, maybe I should just tell her. Maybe I should just help. Maybe this is all a mistake. Then I'd remember Tom's letter. Love means teaching, even when it hurts. I'd set the phone down, walk to the window, look out at the empty street, the streetlights casting long shadows, everything quiet, everything still. Part of me wanted to call, to say forget the house, forget the money, just come home and let's talk. Let's fix this. Let's be mother and daughter again. But the rest of me knew, if I gave in now, I'd lose her forever. Not to distance, to entitlement, to the belief that people are resources, that love is transactional, that mothers exist to be used. I'd seen it in her emails. Your mom's been sitting on a gold mine. Time to cash out. Those words played in my head every night, like a song I couldn't stop hearing. I thought about Tom, about how he'd known, about how he'd tried to protect both of us, about how he'd trusted me to do the hard thing. One night, I talked to his picture, the one on my nightstand, the one from our 30th anniversary. I said, "Am I doing this right?" I swear I could hear him answer, "You're doing what needs to be done." So I didn't call. I let the silence grow. I let Sarah make her choices. And I waited. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone fall. After I signed the trust papers, after I read Patricia's report, I knew protecting the house wasn't enough. Sarah needed more than a legal barrier. She needed a lesson, a real one, the kind that changes you from the inside. I spent weeks thinking about it, planning it, not to punish her, but to wake her up. Step 1 was done. The trust was locked. Richard had the papers ready. Sarah couldn't touch the house even if she tried. Step 2 was harder. I needed to understand what Sarah and Derek were really facing, how bad their situation was, whether they'd hit bottom yet or if they were still falling. Patricia gave me updates every week. Derek's business was hemorrhaging money. Creditors were circling. The bank had sent foreclosure notices. They had maybe 3 months before they lost everything. Sarah didn't know I knew any of this. She thought she was protecting me from worry, or maybe she was protecting herself from shame. Either way, she was drowning and pretending she could swim. Step 3 was the most important. I needed allies. People who knew the real Sarah. People who remembered who she used to be. People who could help me bring her back. I called her old high school teacher, Mr. Wilson. He'd taught her ethics and philosophy. He remembered her, said she was one of the brightest students he'd ever had. Said she wrote papers about integrity that made him cry. I asked if he'd be willing to help, to talk to her, to remind her who she was. He said yes, without hesitation. I reached out to her college roommate, Jennifer. They'd been inseparable freshman year, but Sarah had ghosted her after the wedding, stopped returning calls, stopped responding to messages. Jennifer said she'd been worried, said the Sarah she knew would never abandon her mother, said something had changed and she didn't know what. I told Jennifer the truth, about Derek, about the debt, about the plan to sell my house. Jennifer cried. She said she'd help however she could. Step 4 was financial. If Sarah was going to learn, she needed to face real consequences. But I couldn't just let her lose everything. That wouldn't teach her. That would just break her. So I opened a separate account, put $50,000 in it, earmarked it for Sarah's education, not her debt, her education. If she was willing to learn, willing to change, willing to work for it, the money would be there. But only after she proved she understood what money really means. I also started volunteering at the community center, teaching financial literacy classes, helping people who'd lost everything learn how to rebuild. I wanted to understand what Sarah would need to face, what rock bottom really looked like, how people climbed back up. Every week, I met people who'd been where Sarah was heading, people who'd chosen greed over family, who'd learned the hard way, who'd found their way back. And every week, I learned how to help my daughter do the same. The plan was in motion. All the pieces were in place. I just had to wait for Sarah to make her move. And that Friday morning, she finally did. During those 6 months, I lived 2 lives. One that everyone could see, one that no one knew about. On the outside, I was just an old woman living alone. I tended my garden, watered the roses Tom planted 20 years ago, pulled weeds, swept the porch. My neighbors would wave, ask how I was doing. I'd smile, say fine, thank you for asking. Mrs. Henderson next door would bring me casseroles. She'd say, "You're too thin, you need to eat." I'd thank her, tell her it was delicious. We'd chat about the weather, about her grandchildren, about nothing important. On Sundays, I'd go to church, sit in the same pew I'd sat in for 30 years, sing the hymns, shake hands during the greeting. Everyone thought I was the same person I'd always been. But inside, I was different. I was planning, watching, waiting. Every week, I'd check my email, read Patricia's reports. Sarah and Derek were at a restaurant arguing about money. Sarah withdrew $3,000 from their savings. Derek met with a bankruptcy lawyer. I'd print the reports, file them away, keep my face neutral, my hands steady. Every week, I'd go to the community center, teach my class, help people budget their groceries, their rent, their medical bills, people who were fighting to survive. And every week, I'd think, Sarah needs to see this. She needs to understand this. She needs to know what real struggle looks like. But she didn't come. She didn't call. She didn't ask. Until that Friday morning. The mailman asked me once if I was okay, said I seemed distracted. I told him I was fine, just getting older. He laughed, said, "Aren't we all?" But I wasn't distracted. I was focused. More focused than I'd ever been in my life. I was waiting for my daughter to show me who she really was, and I was preparing to show her who I really was. And when her car pulled into my driveway that morning, when she walked in with those papers, I was ready. So there we were. Back in my living room. Sarah sitting in the chair, Richard standing with his briefcase, and the person who'd just walked in from the kitchen, Margaret, my housekeeper, The woman who'd worked for our family for 15 years. The woman Sarah had fired 3 years ago. Sarah's face went white. Margaret? Margaret stood there holding a tray with 3 cups of tea. She set it down on the coffee table, her movements calm, practiced, like she'd never left. Hello, Sarah. Sarah looked at me, then at Margaret, then back at me. What is she doing here? I kept my voice level. Margaret came back 3 months ago. After you let her go, she needed work. I needed help. It worked out. You brought her back? Yes. Sarah stood up. Her legs shook. This is ridiculous. Mom, what are you doing? I gestured to the couch. Sit down, Sarah. We need to talk. Really talk. She didn't sit. She stood there, her hands clenched, her breathing fast. Richard cleared his throat. Sarah, I think you should hear what your mother has to say. I don't want to hear anything. This is insane. You can't do this. The house, I need this money. I know you do. Then help me. I am helping you. By stealing from me? I stood up then, walked to where she was standing, looked her in the eyes. The house was never yours to sell. It's mine. Your father made sure of that. Because he knew this day would come. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Knew what? That you'd choose money over me. The words hung in the air. Heavy. True. Sarah's face crumpled. That's not fair. Tell me the truth. All of it. How much does Derek owe? She looked away. I don't know what you're talking about. Richard spoke up. $523,000, to be exact. His business is bankrupt. You're about to lose your house. The bank sent foreclosure papers 2 weeks ago. Sarah's head snapped toward him. How do you know that? Because your mother hired someone to find out. Sarah looked at me like I'd slapped her. You had me investigated? I had to know if what I suspected was true. If you were coming here out of desperation or out of greed, you had no right. I had every right. You were planning to take my home, put me in a nursing home, use my life to pay for your husband's mistakes. What right did you have? Sarah sank back into the chair, put her face in her hands, started to cry. Not the pretty kind of crying, the ugly kind, the kind that comes from somewhere deep. We're going to lose everything. The house, the cars, everything. Derek, he promised it would work out. He said this investment was safe. He lied, and I believed him. And now we're drowning and I don't know how to fix it. Margaret handed her a tissue. Sarah took it, wiped her face, looked up at Margaret. I'm sorry. For firing you. For everything. Margaret nodded. I know. Sarah looked at me, her makeup running, her confidence gone, her mask finally off. Mom, please. I know I've been awful. I know I don't deserve your help, but I'm begging you. Please. I sat down next to her, close enough to touch her. But I didn't. I will help you. But not the way you think. What does that mean? It means you won't get money. You'll get a chance. Sarah frowned. A chance? To become the person you used to be, the person I raised, the person who wrote me letters about integrity and promised to take care of me. That person is still in there somewhere, and I'm going to help you find her. How? You'll stay here, 2 weeks. No phone calls to Derek, no business meetings, just you and me, and the life you forgot. I can't just leave everything. You already did, 3 years ago. When you stopped being my daughter and started being his wife. Richard left after that. He said he'd be available if I needed him. He shook Sarah's hand before he went. She didn't shake back, just sat there, staring at nothing. Margaret cleared the teacups. The sound of dishes clinking was the only noise in the room. Sarah finally spoke, her voice small, broken. 2 weeks? 2 weeks. And then what? Then we'll see. If you've learned anything. If you're ready? Ready for what? To be someone I can trust again. She wiped her face with the tissue. Mascara smeared on her hands. What do you want from me? I want you to remember who you are. Who you were before Derek. Before the business. Before you started measuring people's worth in dollars. Sarah looked up at me, her eyes red, swollen. You don't understand what it's like. The pressure, the debt. Derek keeps saying it'll turn around. that we just need one more deal, one more investment. But it never does. It just gets worse. So you thought you'd sell my house. I thought I was solving a problem. You were creating one. You were choosing your husband's mistakes over your mother's home, over everything your father and I built, over your own integrity. She started crying again. I know, and I hate myself for it. Good. That means there's still hope. She looked at me, confused. What? If you can still feel shame, you're not too far gone. The people who are really lost, they don't feel anything anymore. Margaret came back from the kitchen. She stood in the doorway. Sarah, you should call your husband. Tell him you're staying here for a while. Sarah pulled out her phone. Her hands shook. What do I say? The truth, that you need time to think. Sarah dialed, put the phone to her ear. We could hear Derek answer. Where are you? I'm at my mom's. Did you get the papers signed? No. What do you mean no? It's complicated. I need to stay here for a bit. Sarah, we don't have time for this. The bank is calling. The creditors are calling. We need that money now. I know. But Mom, it's not going to work the way we planned. Then make it work. You're her daughter. She'll listen to you. Sarah's voice got stronger. No, she won't. And I don't think she should. There was silence on Derek's end. Then, what are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that we've been lying to ourselves and to each other, and I need to figure out how to fix it. By abandoning me? By learning how to be a person again instead of just your business partner. She hung up, dropped the phone on the couch like it burned her. I sat down next to her. That was brave. That was stupid. He's going to be furious. Let him be furious. You're not his property. She leaned back, closed her eyes. What happens now? Now you rest. Tomorrow we start. Start what? Rebuilding. That night, Margaret made dinner. Simple food, roasted chicken, vegetables from my garden, the kind of meal Sarah used to love when she was young. We ate at the kitchen table, the three of us. Sarah picked at her food. I could see her mind working, calculating, worrying. I said, stop thinking about the money. I can't. Try. How? By thinking about something else. Anything else. Margaret spoke up. Tell us about your day, Sarah. Before you came here, what did you do this morning? Sarah set down her fork. I don't remember. You don't remember this morning? I woke up. Derek was already on the phone, yelling at someone. I made coffee, checked my email, deleted 20 messages from creditors, got dressed, printed those papers, drove here. You didn't eat breakfast? No. Did Derek ask how you were? No. Did you look in the mirror? Maybe. I don't know. Margaret nodded. You went through the motions, but you weren't really there. Sarah's eyes filled with tears again. I haven't been there for a long time. I reached across the table, took her hand. Then let's bring you back. After dinner, I took Sarah upstairs, to her old room, the one that had been empty for 15 years. I'd kept it the same, her twin bed with the yellow blanket, her bookshelf with all the books we used to read together, her desk where she did homework, the watercolor painting she gave me when she was 15, the one that said, I'll take care of you when you're old, Mom. Sarah stood in the doorway, staring, her mouth open. You kept everything. Of course I did. Why? Because I never stopped hoping you'd come back. She walked to the bed, sat down, ran her hand over the blanket. I used to feel safe here. You still can. She looked at me. I don't deserve this. You don't have to deserve love, Sarah. You just have to accept it. She lay down, curled up under the blanket, like she was 7 years old again. I sat on the edge of the bed, smoothed her hair back from her face, the way I used to when she had nightmares. Mom? Yes? I'm sorry. For everything. For all of it. I know. Do you think I can fix this? I think you can try. And that's all anyone can do. She closed her eyes. I stayed there until her breathing slowed, until she fell asleep. Then I went downstairs. Margaret was in the kitchen, washing dishes. She spoke without turning around. You think 2 weeks is enough? I don't know, but it's a start. What if she goes back to him anyway? Then at least I'll know I tried, and she'll know she had a choice. Margaret dried her hands, turned to face me. You're stronger than you look. I smiled. I had a good teacher. She knew I meant Tom. That night, I lay in my own bed, listening to the house settle, knowing my daughter was upstairs, knowing the next 2 weeks would either save her or lose her forever. I looked at Tom's picture on the nightstand, whispered, I hope you're watching. I hope I'm doing this right. The house creaked. The wind blew outside. And somewhere in the darkness, I felt him answer, You are. Day 2, Saturday morning. Sarah came downstairs around 9, her hair messy, her face puffy from crying. She wore an old t-shirt she'd found in her dresser, one from her college days. Margaret had made pancakes, coffee, orange juice. The kitchen smelled like home. Sarah sat down, stared at the food. I'm not really hungry. Eat anyway. You need your strength. For what? For what comes next. After breakfast, I asked Sarah to help me clean the attic. She looked at me like I was crazy. The attic? Now? Now. We climbed the narrow stairs, pulled the cord that turned on the single bulb. The attic was dusty, filled with boxes. 30 years of memories stacked on top of each other. I pointed to a corner. Start there. We're looking for Christmas decorations. Sarah knelt down, opened a box, but instead of decorations, she found letters. Envelopes with her handwriting, addressed to me. She pulled one out, opened it. Her teenage handwriting stared back at her. Dear Mom, I got an A on my ethics paper today. The teacher said I have a strong moral compass. He said I understand the difference between what's easy and what's right. I told him I learned that from you. Thank you for teaching me that people matter more than things. I hope I never forget that. Love, Sarah. She read it out loud, her voice breaking on the last sentence. She opened another, this one from college. Mom, thank you for working 2 jobs so I could be here. I know you're tired. I know it's hard. But I promise, when I graduate, when I have a good job, I'm going to take care of you. You'll never have to work that hard again. I'm going to make you proud. I'm going to help people, just like you helped me. I promise. Sarah set the letters down, put her face in her hands. I don't even remember writing these. I don't remember being this person. I sat down next to her on the dusty floor. You were. For a long time, you were. What happened to me? Life, marriage, pressure. You forgot who you were. It happens. She picked up another envelope. This one wasn't in her handwriting. It was addressed to me, from Derek's address, postmarked 2 months ago. She looked at me. What's this? Open it. Sarah opened the envelope, pulled out a letter, read it silently. Her face changed with every line. Shock, confusion, pain. She looked up at me. He wrote to you? 2 months ago. The letter was from Derek. I'd kept it, waiting for the right moment to show her. It read, Dear Mrs. Patterson, I don't know if I should be writing this, but I can't stay silent anymore. Sarah wants to sell your house. I've tried to stop her. I've tried to make her see reason. But she won't listen to me. She's convinced this is the only way to save us. I'm so sorry. This isn't the woman I married. I don't know how to bring her back. The business failures are my fault. The debt is my fault. But this plan, this idea to take your home, that's coming from her now. I tried to tell her we'd figure something else out. She said I was being weak, said I wasn't thinking strategically. I'm writing because I thought you should know. Maybe you can reach her in a way I can't. Please forgive us. Forgive me. I never meant for it to go this far. Derek. Sarah's hands shook. He tried to stop me? He did. And I called him weak. Yes. She stood up, walked to the small attic window, looked out at the neighborhood below, her shoulders shaking. I've been blaming him this whole time, telling myself he pushed me into this, that it was his idea, his pressure. But it wasn't. It was me. I stood up, walked over to her, put my hand on her shoulder. That's the hardest part. Realizing you're the villain in your own story. She turned to me, tears streaming down her face. How do you know all this? How do you know he tried to stop me? Because he's not a bad person, Sarah. He made bad business decisions. But he didn't want to hurt me. You did. The words hit her like a slap. She sank down, sat on the floor. I'm a terrible person. No. You're a lost person. There's a difference. How do I fix this? You start by admitting it. To yourself. To him. To me. And then you figure out how to be someone different. She looked at the letters scattered around us. All those promises I made to you. You can still keep them. Just not the way you thought. She picked up the letter from Derek. Read it again. He cared more about you than I did. He cared about both of us. That's why you married him. Remember? Sarah folded the letter carefully. Put it in her pocket. Can I call him? Not yet. Not until you understand what you're apologizing for. When will that be? When you stop seeing this as a problem to solve and start seeing it as a lesson to learn. That night, Sarah cried in her room. I could hear her through the walls. Long, painful sobs. The kind that come from somewhere deep. From a place where you finally see yourself clearly. And you don't like what you see. I sat in my room, listening, wanting to go to her, but knowing she needed this. She needed to feel the full weight of what she'd done, what she'd become. Margaret knocked softly on my door. Came in with tea. She sat on the edge of my bed. This is hard for you too. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. But it's working. Is it? Margaret nodded. She's breaking open. That's the first step. What if she doesn't survive the breaking? Then you'll help her put the pieces back together. That's what mothers do. A week passed. 7 days of Sarah living in my house. Helping Margaret with dishes, making her bed, cooking meals, doing the things she used to do before her life became about money and status and keeping up appearances. I watched her change, slowly, like ice melting. On day 3, she got up early, made coffee without being asked, sat on the porch watching the sunrise. On day 4, she helped me in the garden, pulled weeds, watered the roses, got dirt under her fingernails. On day 5, she laughed at something Margaret said, a real laugh, not the polite kind, the kind that comes from your belly. But on day 7, everything changed. Derek called. Not Sarah's phone. Mine. The landline. The number he'd had for years but never used. I answered. Hello? Mrs. Patterson. It's Derek. Please don't hang up. I won't. Is Sarah there? She won't answer my calls. She's here. Can I talk to her? That's up to her. Sarah was in the kitchen, heard my tone, came to the doorway. Mouthed. Who is it? I covered the receiver. Derek. Her face changed. Fear, guilt, something else I couldn't read. She took the phone, walked into the living room. I gave her privacy, but I could hear pieces of the conversation through the walls. I know. I'm sorry too. No, I'm not coming home yet, because I need to figure something out. No, not about us. About me. I know the bank is calling. I know. Derek, listen to me. We're going to lose the house, the cars, everything. And that's okay. No, it's not okay. But it's what's happening. And maybe we need it to happen. Maybe we need to lose everything so we can remember what matters. I don't know yet. But I'm trying to learn. I have to go. I love you too. She hung up, came back to the kitchen, sat down, put her head in her hands. I sat across from her. How is he? Scared, angry, desperate. Are you going back? She looked up. Her eyes were different now, clearer. No, not yet. Not until I understand what I'm going back to. What do you mean? I mean, if I go back now, nothing changes. We panic, we scramble, we hurt people trying to save ourselves, and in 5 years, we're right back here. I need to learn how to be different first. That's very wise. She laughed. It sounded sad. It doesn't feel wise. It feels like I'm abandoning him. You're not abandoning him. You're learning how to be a partner instead of a co-conspirator. That night, I made a decision. I called Sarah down to the living room, sat her on the couch. Margaret sat in the chair nearby. I need to tell you something. Sarah looked nervous. Okay. Your father left me money. A lot of money. In a trust. $875,000. Sarah's mouth opened. What? It's been there for 5 years, since he died. I've known about it for 6 months. You? You've had that money this whole time? Yes. And you watched us struggle? Watched us lose everything? Yes. Why? Because if I'd given it to you 6 months ago, you would have taken it and learned nothing. You would have paid Derek's debts. You would have come back the next time you were in trouble. And the time after that. I couldn't save you from yourself, Sarah. I could only give you the chance to save yourself. She stood up, started pacing. So this was all a test? Everything? No. It was a lesson. There's a difference. And what if I'd failed? What if I'd walked out that first day? Then I would have let you go, and hoped you'd find your way back someday. Sarah stopped pacing, looked at me, her eyes wet. You would have let me lose everything? Yes. Even knowing you could stop it? Yes. That's cruel. No. That's love. Real love. The kind that doesn't fix everything. The kind that lets you face consequences so you can grow from them. She sank back onto the couch, her voice small. Do you still have the money? Yes. Are you going to help us? I am going to help you. But not the way you think. Sarah looked up. What does that mean? I pulled out an envelope. Set it on the coffee table. This is a check. For $50,000. It's not for Derek's debts. It's for your education. My education? I already have a degree. Not that kind of education. The kind that teaches you what money really means. What matters. How to help people instead of using them. You're going to take a course. Financial counseling. At the community center. You're going to learn how to help people like you. People who've lost everything. And when you're done, when you understand, we'll talk about the rest. Sarah picked up the envelope. Stared at it. This isn't enough to save us. I know. But it's enough to change you. And that's what needs saving. What about Derek? What about the house? The creditors? You'll lose them, both of you. And then you'll start over, together, without shortcuts, without using other people to save yourselves. She set the envelope down. What if we can't do it? What if we fail? Then you fail. And you learn from that too. But at least you'll fail honestly. Margaret spoke up. Your mother isn't punishing you, Sarah. She's teaching you the hardest lesson there is, that some things are worth losing everything for, like integrity, like family, like knowing who you are when everything else is gone. Sarah looked at both of us, then at the envelope, then back at me. This is really hard. I know. But hard doesn't mean wrong. She picked up the envelope again, held it like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Okay, I'll do it. But I could see the struggle in her eyes. Part of her wanted to beg for more, to plead for the full amount, to save Derek and the house and everything else. And part of her knew she'd already gotten the most valuable thing, a second chance to be someone worth being. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed listening to the sounds of the house, the refrigerator humming downstairs, the old pipes settling, the wind against the windows, and Sarah crying. Again. But different this time. Not the desperate sobbing from before. Something quieter, more thoughtful. The sound of someone grieving who they used to be. I got up, walked to her door, put my hand on the wood, stood there in the dark hallway, wanting to go in, wanting to hold her like I did when she was small, when nightmares were the worst thing she had to face. But I didn't open the door. I couldn't. Not yet. She needed to sit with this, to feel the full weight of her choices, to understand what it meant to lose everything because of your own decisions. My hand stayed on the door, flat against the wood, like I could send comfort through the wall without actually giving in. I whispered, too quiet for her to hear. I love you, and that's why I can't save you. Then I went back to my room, and I didn't sleep until dawn. Week 2 started on a Monday. Sarah got a text from Derek. The bank had foreclosed on their house. They had 30 days to move out. She showed me the text, her hand shaking. It's really happening. Yes. What do we do? You figure it out. Both of you. Together. But where will we go? That's for you to decide. She looked at me, desperate. Mom, please. I kept my voice steady. No. Just enough for first and last month's rent. Just enough to get an apartment. No. You're really going to let us be homeless? You won't be homeless. You'll figure something out. People do. Every day. She sat down at the kitchen table, put her head in her hands. I don't know how to do this. Then you'll learn. That week, I watched Sarah make calls to friends she hadn't spoken to in years, asking if they knew of any cheap apartments, any job openings, anything. Most of them didn't answer. The ones who did were cold, distant. She'd cut them off when life was good, they remembered. She applied for jobs, retail, administrative assistant, anything that would pay. She got rejections, over and over, overqualified, no recent experience, bad timing. Derek called every night. They'd talk for hours. I could hear pieces through the walls. Him scared, her trying to stay strong. Both of them lost. On Wednesday, Sarah came to me. We got approved for an apartment, small, not in a great area. But it's something. That's good. The rent is $1,200 a month. Derek got a job offer. Accounting clerk. It pays $45,000 a year. After taxes, that's about $3,100 a month. We can make it work. Barely. I'm proud of you. She looked at me. Tears in her eyes. Are you? Really? Yes. You're doing what needs to be done. Without shortcuts. Without using people. That takes courage. It doesn't feel like courage. It feels like drowning. That's because you're used to life being easy. This is what most people live with every day. This is what I lived with when I was raising you. She sat down next to me. I never understood that. How hard you worked, how much you sacrificed. I know, but now you do. On Friday, 2 weeks after Sarah first walked into my kitchen with those papers, she packed her things, the few items she'd brought, the old t-shirt she'd kept from her room, some of the letters she'd found in the attic. We stood in the driveway. Margaret was on the porch, watching. Sarah hugged me, held on tight. Thank you. For what? For not giving up on me, and for not giving in to me. I held her, breathed in the smell of her hair, the same shampoo she used as a teenager. Some things don't change. You're going to be okay. I don't feel okay. You will. Give it time. She pulled back, looked at me. The money. The $800,000. Are you ever going to help us with that? Maybe. When you don't need it anymore. She laughed. That doesn't make sense. It makes perfect sense. When you've learned to live without it, when you've built something real on your own, when you understand what money can and can't do, then maybe you'll be ready for it. And if we're never ready, then you'll live a good life anyway. A real one. Without shortcuts. She got in her car, a 10-year-old sedan Derek had kept when they sold everything else, started the engine, rolled down the window. Mom, I love you. I love you too, sweetheart. More than you know. She drove away. I stood there watching until her car disappeared around the corner. Margaret came down from the porch, stood next to me. You think she'll make it? I think she'll try. And that's all I can ask for. 3 weeks after Sarah left, she called me. Not to ask for money, just to talk. She told me about the apartment, how small it was, how the walls were thin and they could hear their neighbors fighting at night, how the water heater didn't work right and they had to time their showers carefully. She told me about Derek's job, how he left at 7 every morning, came home at 6 exhausted, how he was learning humility, how being the junior guy in an accounting department was harder on his ego than losing all their money. She told me about looking for work, how she'd applied to 43 jobs, how she'd gotten 3 interviews, how they all ended the same way. We'll let you know. I listened. Didn't offer solutions, just listened. Then she said something that surprised me. I started the class. At the community center, the financial counseling one. How is it? Hard, eye-opening, humbling. Tell me about it. She took a breath. There's this woman in my class. Her name is Maria. She's 42, single mom, 3 kids. She works 2 jobs, morning shift at a diner, night shift at a laundry service. She's been doing it for 6 years. I remembered Maria. She'd been coming to the center for months. One of the hardest working people I'd ever met. Sarah continued. Maria makes $24,000 a year, total, from both jobs. That's $2,000 a month. Her rent is $900. She has 3 kids to feed, clothe, get to school. And she does it. Every month, without complaining, without asking for handouts. What did you learn from her? Sarah's voice cracked. That I'm a spoiled brat. That I've never actually struggled a day in my life. That when Derek and I were making 6 figures and still drowning in debt, we weren't struggling. We were failing. There's a difference. Go on. Maria told me she used to have a spending problem. She'd use credit cards, buy things she couldn't afford, tell herself she deserved it because she worked hard. Then one day, her car broke down. She couldn't fix it, couldn't get to work, almost lost both jobs. That's when she realized she had to choose comfort or survival. She chose survival. And now? Now she's been debt-free for 3 years. She's saved $4,000. She's planning to take a CNA course next year, get a better job, maybe only work 1 shift instead of 2. She has a plan, a real one, not based on luck or deals or shortcuts, based on discipline and patience and knowing what actually matters. Sarah went quiet for a moment. Then she said, I met her at the break. She asked what brought me to the class. I told her, everything, the debt, the house, the plan to sell your home, all of it. What did she say? She said, at least you had a mother who loved you enough to say no. My mother would have given me everything, and I would have learned nothing. You're lucky. Sarah started crying. I'm so ashamed, Mom, of who I was, of what I almost did to you. Maria has nothing and she's grateful. I had everything and I wanted more. What's wrong with me? Nothing's wrong with you. You just forgot. But you're remembering now. Maria gave me her number. Said if I ever need someone to talk to, someone who understands what it's like to rebuild from nothing, I can call her. A woman I just met, who has every reason to judge me, who offered me friendship instead. That's because she knows. People who've been broken and put themselves back together, they recognize each other. They help each other. You're part of that club now. I don't want to be in this club. Nobody does. But it's the best club there is, because everyone in it knows what matters. Sarah told me more about the class, about the other people she was meeting. A man named James who'd lost everything in a divorce. A young woman named Lisa who'd dropped out of college to take care of her sick mother. A couple in their 60s who'd been scammed out of their retirement. Everyone had a story. Everyone had been broken. Everyone was learning how to rebuild. And Sarah was learning with them. She told me. The teacher asked us to write down our biggest financial mistake, not to share, just to acknowledge. I wrote down, I tried to sell my mother's house to pay my husband's debts because I thought money was more important than integrity. When I wrote it out, when I saw it on paper, I understood. It wasn't just a mistake, it was a betrayal. Of you, of myself, of everything I was raised to believe. What are you going to do with that understanding? I'm going to use it, to help other people not make the same mistake, to teach them what you taught me. That love sometimes means saying no, that consequences are teachers, that some things are worth losing everything for. I felt tears in my eyes. That's my daughter. That's the girl I raised. She laughed. Through her own tears. I'm still here, Mom. Took me a while to find my way back, but I'm still here. I know you are, sweetheart. I never doubted it. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen. The same kitchen where this all started, where Sarah walked in with her papers and her demands and her cold calculations. And I smiled. Because she was coming back, not to my house, but to herself. 4 months after Sarah left my house, she invited me to dinner, at her apartment. She and Derek wanted to cook for me. I drove to their neighborhood. It wasn't nice. Cars on blocks, graffiti on the walls. The building was old, paint peeling, but the hallway was clean. Someone cared. I knocked on their door. Apartment 2C. Sarah answered. She looked different, thinner, but not unhealthy. Her eyes were clear, bright, real. She hugged me. Held on longer than usual. Thanks for coming. The apartment was tiny. 1 bedroom, a kitchen barely big enough for 2 people, a living room with a couch that looked like it came from a thrift store. But it was clean, decorated with care, plants on the windowsill, pictures on the walls. It felt like a home. Derek was in the kitchen, cooking. He turned when I came in, wiped his hands on a towel, walked over. Mrs. Patterson, thank you for coming, and for for everything. We shook hands. His grip was firm. His eyes met mine. No shame, no arrogance, just honesty. We ate dinner at their small table. Spaghetti, salad, garlic bread, simple food, made with care. Sarah told me about her job. She'd finally gotten hired, receptionist at a dental office. It didn't pay much, but it was something. Derek told me about his work, how he was learning, how being humble was harder than being proud, but more honest. And for the first time in years, I saw them as partners, not co-conspirators, not competitors, but two people facing life together. Equals. Finally, after dinner, we sat in their small living room. Sarah made tea. The three of us on that thrift store couch, cramped, but comfortable. Sarah set down her cup. "Mom, I need to tell you something." "Okay." "I finished the financial counseling course, got my certificate. The community center asked if I'd volunteer, help teach the next class. I said yes." "That's wonderful. But that's not all. Derek and we've been talking about everything, about what we want, who we want to be, and we made some decisions." Derek leaned forward. "We're filing for bankruptcy. Official. Complete. We're wiping out all the old debts, starting completely clean. It'll wreck our credit for 7 years. But we don't care. We don't want to live under that weight anymore." Sarah nodded. "And we're not going to try to build another business. Not for a long time. Maybe never. Derek's going to keep his accounting job, maybe take some classes, get his CPA license, do it right this time. Slowly, honestly." "And what about you?" "I'm going to work. Really work. Not managing people or making deals. Just contributing. Being useful. And I want to help people. People like Maria. People who are trying to rebuild. I want to teach them what you taught me." I felt something warm in my chest. Pride, relief, hope. Then Sarah did something I didn't expect. She reached into her bag, pulled out an envelope, set it on the coffee table between us. It was the check. The $50,000 I'd given her 4 months ago. Unopened. I stared at it. "You didn't use it?" "No." "Why not?" Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Because I realized something. You weren't giving me money. You were giving me a test, to see if I'd take the easy way or the hard way, to see if I'd learned anything. It wasn't a test. It was help. It was both. And I chose not to use it, because I needed to know I could do this on my own, that I could rebuild, without your money, without anyone's money, just my own work, my own choices." Derek put his hand on her knee. "We paid for the course ourselves, $25 a week for 8 weeks, $200 total. We saved up for it. It took us 2 months, but we did it." I picked up the envelope, looked at both of them. "You earned this. You should keep it." Sarah shook her head. "No, if we take it now, it means we're still thinking like people who need rescue. We're not. We're people who need purpose. There's a difference." I set the envelope back down. "Then what do you want me to do with it?" Sarah took a breath. "I want you to use it for other people, for other families like us, who are drowning, who need education, not handouts. Start a fund, in Dad's name. The Thomas Patterson Financial Recovery Fund. Help people learn what we learned. That money doesn't save you. Knowledge does, discipline does, integrity does." I looked at Derek. He nodded. "It was his idea, actually. He said your husband knew we'd end up here, knew we'd need to learn this lesson. This is his legacy, not the money. The lesson." Tears ran down my face. I didn't wipe them away. Tom. Always teaching, even from beyond. I looked at my daughter, at this woman who'd walked into my house 6 months ago with papers and demands and entitlement, who'd been willing to throw me away for money. She was gone. The real Sarah had come back. But I had more to tell them. More they needed to know. "There's something else. Something I need to show you." I reached into my own bag, pulled out a folder, set it on the table, opened it. Inside were financial statements, account balances, trust documents. "Your father didn't just leave me $875,000. He left instructions. About when to tell you. About when to give it to you." Sarah looked confused. What do you mean? Tom's letter. It said more than I told you. It said, if Sarah comes to you in desperation, test her. If she passes, tell her the truth, the full truth, which is. I took a breath. The $875,000 isn't all there is. Your father had other accounts, other investments. When everything is added up, the total is $2.3 million. Sarah's face went white. What? $2,300,000. He spent 20 years building it, quietly, carefully. He knew this day might come. He wanted to make sure I'd be protected, and that you'd be ready. Derek's mouth hung open. Ready for what? I pulled out another document. Tom's full letter, the one I'd only shown Sarah part of. I read it out loud. My dearest Sarah, if you're hearing this, it means you've passed your mother's test. It means you've learned what money really is. A tool, not a purpose. And now you're ready to use it wisely. The money your mother has isn't for her retirement. She has enough from my pension and Social Security. This money is your inheritance. But only if you've proven you don't need it. Only if you've learned to build a life without it. If you have, then take it. Use it to help others. Start a foundation. Fund scholarships. Teach people what you learned the hard way. Turn your mistake into other people's education. That's the only way money means anything, when it's used to lift others up. I love you. I'm proud of you. Even when you couldn't see it, I knew the real you was still there. Your mother knew too. That's why she was strong enough to let you fall, so you could learn how to stand. All my love, Dad. The room was silent, except for Sarah crying, deep, shaking sobs. Derek had tears on his face too. I folded the letter carefully. Put it back in the folder. Your father knew you'd come back to yourself. He trusted you. He trusted us both. And now the money is yours. Not to pay old debts. Not to buy a house or a car or anything for yourselves, but to do what he asked. Help others. Teach them. Give them what you were given. A second chance. Sarah couldn't speak. She just nodded. Over and over. Derek found his voice. Why? Why did he believe in us when we didn't believe in ourselves? I smiled through my tears. Because that's what love does. It sees who you really are, even when you've forgotten. And it waits, however long it takes, for you to see it too. We sat there for a long time, the three of us, not talking, just being. Finally, Sarah spoke, her voice quiet, steady. We're not ready for that money yet. I know. We need more time. To build something real. To prove to ourselves that we can live without it. Maybe a year. Maybe 2. However long you need. But we'll use it the way Dad wanted. Every penny. For other people. For families who are where we were. Lost. Desperate. Willing to hurt people they love just to survive. We'll teach them there's another way. Derek added, and we'll live simply. We don't need much. This apartment, our jobs, each other, that's enough. Sarah looked at me. Is that okay? Can you wait? I can wait forever if I need to. This isn't about the money anymore. It never was. It was about you, finding yourself, becoming someone who could be trusted with it. She leaned over, hugged me, held on tight. I'm sorry, Mom, for everything, for almost losing you, for almost losing myself. I held her, breathed in the smell of her hair, felt her heart beating against mine. You didn't lose me. You never could. I'm your mother. That doesn't change. No matter what. 3 months later, 7 months total since that Friday morning, I was sitting on my porch, afternoon sun, cup of tea, the same spot where I'd spent so many evenings during those 6 months of waiting. My neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, came over, the one who used to bring me casseroles. She sat in the chair next to me, the one that used to be Tom's. I heard your daughter was back in your life. She is. I'm glad. I was worried about you, all alone in this big house. I was never alone. She looked at me, studied my face. You knew, didn't you? You knew she'd come back. I hoped. I didn't know. Mrs. Henderson poured herself tea from my pot. I'd brought an extra cup without asking. She smiled at that. Tell me what happened. The real story. Not the neighborhood gossip version. So I told her. Everything. The papers. The trust. The 2 weeks. The the money, Tom's letter, all of it. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she set down her cup, shook her head. Most people would have just given her the money. I know. Why didn't you? I looked out at my garden, at Tom's roses, still blooming after all these years. Because love isn't always saying yes. Sometimes it's saying no, and watching them struggle, and being there when they're ready, not to fix everything, just to witness, to guide, to believe in them even when they don't believe in themselves. Mrs. Henderson wiped her eyes. I have a son, Michael. He's 43. Calls me maybe twice a year. Usually when he needs something. Last time, he wanted $20,000. Said it was an emergency. An investment opportunity. Did you give it to him? She looked down at her hands. I did. I always do. And he's never paid me back. Not once in 20 years. I've given him over $100,000. My retirement savings, gone. I reached over, took her hand. She continued. I thought I was being a good mother, thought I was helping, but I wasn't. I was enabling, teaching him that mom's an ATM, that love means money. And now he doesn't call unless he needs more. I don't even know if he loves me or just my bank account. It's not too late. She looked at me, her eyes desperate. Hope fighting with despair. Really? Really. Call him. Tell him the bank is closed. Tell him you love him but you won't give him any more money. And then wait. See what he does. If he disappears, you'll know. If he stays. If he gets angry first, but then comes around. Then there's still hope. What if he never calls again? Then you'll have your answer. And you'll stop wondering. Stop hoping for something that isn't there. And you can grieve and move on. She nodded slowly. Your story. It gives me courage. That's why I'm telling it. Not because I'm proud, but because maybe someone else needs to hear it. Needs to know that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone fall. And trust, they'll learn how to stand. Mrs. Henderson squeezed my hand. Thank you, for being honest, for not pretending it was easy. It wasn't easy. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. But it was right, and sometimes that's all we can do. The right thing, even when it hurts. She left an hour later, lighter somehow, like she'd been carrying a weight and finally set it down. I sat there as the sun set, thinking about all the parents out there, struggling with the same question: when to help, when to step back, when to let their children fall. There's no easy answer. But there's a true one. You help them by teaching them they don't need you to survive, that they're strong enough on their own, and that your love isn't conditional on their success. It's constant, regardless. A year and a half after that Friday morning, Sarah called me. Her voice excited, nervous. Mom, can you come to the community center today? There's something I want to show you. I drove over. The same building where I'd been volunteering for years. Where I'd met Maria and James and Lisa and so many others. Where Sarah had taken her first steps toward rebuilding. Sarah met me at the door, took my hand, led me to a classroom. Inside were 15 people, sitting in a circle, notebooks open, listening as Sarah stood at the front. She was teaching, leading a discussion about budgeting, about needs versus wants, about how to rebuild after loss. I sat in the back, watched my daughter teach with passion, with authority, with empathy. She told them her story, not the sanitized version, the real one. About the debt, the desperation, the plan to sell her mother's house, the moment she realized she'd lost herself. The class listened. Some nodded, some cried. All of them understood. After class, people came up to her, thanked her, hugged her, asked questions. She answered each one with patience, with kindness, with the wisdom of someone who'd been where they were. When everyone left, Sarah sat down next to me. So? What do you think? I think your father would be so proud. She smiled, tears in her eyes. I got my counseling certification. Official. I'm getting paid now. Not much. $15 an hour, 20 hours a week. But it's something. And Derek's been promoted. He's a senior accountant now. Making $58,000 a year. We're saving. Building an emergency fund. Doing it right this time. And the foundation? We're working on it, with Richard's help. The Thomas Patterson Financial Recovery Fund. We're starting small, 5 scholarships this year. For people who can't afford financial counseling courses, next year we'll do more. Slowly, carefully. The way Dad would have wanted. I took her hand. I'm so proud of you. She leaned her head on my shoulder, like she used to when she was little. I couldn't have done this without you being strong enough to say no, to let me fall, to believe I could stand back up. You did the hard part. You chose to change. We sat there in that empty classroom, mother and daughter, no longer on opposite sides, but together. Finally, she lifted her head, looked at me. There's one more thing. Derek and I, we've been talking about the money, the 2.3 million. We're ready now. Ready to use it the way Dad wanted, to set up the foundation properly, to help hundreds of people instead of just a few. Are you sure? I'm sure. We've been living on our own income for over a year. We've proven to ourselves that we don't need it to survive. Now we can use it to help others thrive. I smiled. Then let's do it. Let's make your father's dream real. Sarah stood up, pulled me to my feet, hugged me tight. Thank you, Mom, for everything, for not giving up, for teaching me what love really means. I held her. This woman who'd come so far, who'd fallen and risen, who'd learned the hardest lessons and become better for them. My daughter, lost and found, broken and whole, finally herself again. 2 years after that Friday morning, the morning that changed everything, Sarah called and asked if I wanted to go somewhere with her and Derek. Where? You'll see. It's a surprise. We drove for an hour, out of the city, into the suburbs, into the neighborhoods where old trees line the streets and kids ride bikes on sidewalks. Sarah pulled into a parking lot. I looked up. It was a park. The park. The one where Tom proposed to me 43 years ago. The one where we brought Sarah home from the hospital and took her first pictures. The one where we spent every Sunday when she was little. I hadn't been here in 15 years. Not since Tom died. I couldn't. It hurt too much. But now, here we were. We walked down the path. The same path. Leaves crunching under our feet. The air smelled like autumn. Like memory. Like home. Sarah led us to a bench. A stone bench near the pond. The bench where Tom used to read to her every Sunday, rain or shine. I stopped walking. My hand went to my chest. This bench. Sarah smiled. I remember, Mom. I remember everything now. How Dad would sit right here. How I'd climb up next to him. How he'd read to me for hours. How you'd sit on the grass and watch us. How safe I felt. How loved. I sat down on the bench. Ran my hand over the cold stone. Felt the years between then and now. All the loss, all the pain, all the distance. Derek sat on the grass, giving us space, watching the pond. Sarah sat next to me, close, our shoulders touching. Mom, do you remember what Dad used to say? When we'd come here? Tell me. He'd say, this is what matters. Right here. This moment. This place. These people. Not the house. Not the car. Not the bank account. Just this. Just us. I nodded, tears already falling. He did say that, every time. I forgot it. For so long, I forgot. I thought success meant having more, being more, proving more. I thought love was something you earned by being impressive, by being useful, by being successful. And now? Now I know. Love is just being present, being honest, being yourself, with people who see you, really see you, and love you anyway. We sat there, mother and daughter, on the bench where so much had happened, where so much had been lost, and now, found again. Sarah reached into her bag, pulled out a folder, set it on the bench between us. What's this? The foundation papers. Official, legal, complete. The Thomas Patterson Financial Recovery Fund is real. We launched it last month. We've already given out 12 scholarships. We've helped 37 families, and we're just getting started. She opened the folder, showed me pictures, families, smiling, holding certificates, standing in front of the community center. This is Maria. Remember her? She finished the CNA course, got a job at a hospital. She's making $38,000 a year now, working one job instead of two. Her kids are thriving. She sends me pictures all the time. She flipped to another photo. This is James, the man who lost everything in his divorce. He's a counselor now too, helping other men who are struggling. He says your story, what you did for me, it gave him hope. It showed him that people can change, that it's never too late. Another photo. This is the Martinez family. Lost their home in a fire, no insurance. We helped them, not with money, with knowledge, with support, with community. They're back on their feet now. And they're helping others too. I looked at every photo, every face, every story. Sarah, this is incredible. It's Dad's dream. And yours. You both knew that the only thing that lasts is what you give away. That money is just a tool, and the real inheritance is knowing how to use it. I put my arm around her, pulled her close, like I used to when she was small. Your father is so proud of you. I know he is. Wherever he is, he's watching. And he's saying, that's my girl. Sarah leaned her head on my shoulder. Do you forgive me, Mom? For what I almost did? For who I almost became? I turned to face her, took her face in my hands, the way I did when she was a child and needed to hear something important. There's nothing to forgive. You were lost, and now you're found. That's all that matters. I never stopped loving you, even when you couldn't see it, even when you were hurting me. I loved you then. I love you now. I'll love you forever. That's what mothers do. She cried. We both did. Derek came over, joined us on the bench, put his arms around both of us. Mrs. Patterson, he said, I need to say something too. Thank you for seeing me, the real me, not the guy who made bad investments, not the guy who was drowning in debt, but the person underneath, the one who wanted to be better. Thank you for believing I could be. I took his hand. You were never the problem, Derek. You made mistakes. We all do. But you never stopped caring, never stopped trying, never gave up on her, or yourself. That's what matters. The three of us sat there, on that bench, in that park, where it all began, where Sarah learned what love looked like, where she forgot, and where, finally, she remembered. Sarah pulled out one more thing from her bag, a small frame. In it was the watercolor painting she'd made when she was 15, the one that said, I'll take care of you when you're old, Mom. I kept this. All these years, even when I forgot what it meant, I kept it. And now I want you to have it back. As a promise. The promise I made then. The one I'm keeping now. I will take care of you. Not with money, but with love, with presence, with being the daughter you deserve. I took the frame, looked at the painting, at her childish handwriting, at the stick figures holding hands. You already are, sweetheart. You already are. We stayed in that park until the sun started to set. We walked the paths we used to walk. We fed the ducks in the pond. We sat on the grass and talked about Tom, about the good times, about the lessons he taught us, about how he'd planned this all along, how he'd known exactly what we'd need, and when. As we left, I looked back at the bench, at the place where so much had happened, where a family was built, where a daughter was lost, and where, finally, she was found again. Derek drove us home. Sarah held my hand the whole way. And when we pulled into my driveway, into the driveway where this all started, I felt it. Peace. Not because everything was perfect, but because everything was real, honest, earned. Justice had arrived. Not as revenge, not as punishment, but as a transformation, as growth, as love that was strong enough to say no so it could eventually say yes. And in the end, that was the only justice that mattered. So that's my story. The day my daughter showed up demanding I sell my house, and how I taught her the greatest lesson of her life, that love isn't always soft, but it's always worth it. If you've ever had to make a hard choice for someone you love, I see you. Drop a comment and share your story. Maybe it'll help someone else find courage. Thanks for listening. And remember, the loudest justice doesn't need to say a word. With love and respect.